Today, we are tackling something that comes up in schools, therapy sessions, and everywhere in between. It is the use of the labels high functioning and low functioning when we are talking about autistic kids or autistic people of any age. We're going to talk today about how these labels of high and low functioning are actually harmful. They don't represent a child's actual abilities, they are oftentimes inaccurate, but don't worry because we are going to be talking about what you can do instead. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what you think it means. Like at the surface level, a lot of people think, yes, this is helpful for a child because of what they think it means. But here's what it actually means. So oftentimes when we hear the term low functioning, to us, that means this person has visible support needs. What it actually means is that there's so much going on that we don't even know under the surface, right? So oftentimes we see a child that is labeled low functioning and we assume low functioning equals low language ability, low cognition, low understanding what's going on in the world. Okay. So that, for obvious reasons, is really harmful when we're describing that, because a lot of times a person who on the surface level you would see and label as low functioning actually has so many incredible skills. And we know this because we know a lot of non-speaking adults and autistic people and children who have incredible cognition. We know a lot of non-speaking autistic adults who have, maybe 24/7 care and they've gotten their college degree. Okay, we can't make assumptions based on, oh, this person doesn't speak, or this person is stimming a lot, and that means that they are low functioning and have low abilities across all areas of their life. Okay, so that is why the term low functioning is often harmful. It really just oversimplifies something that is so complex. Okay, and then the term with high functioning is interesting because a lot of people will use that as justification, like, oh, well, he's high functioning. And it's like they're throwing it out there as a compliment. Okay, I've talked to many autistic adults who say, people say I'm high functioning, but they don't see that I'm actually drowning, like metaphorically. They don't see how hard life is for me. So the term high functioning, when we hear that term, we think that means this person is independent. But what we don't see is all of the internal struggles that can be going on that could be affecting them in so many different ways. So it's really just invalidating that they have other struggles in their life that they very likely need accommodations for and deserve accommodations for. But a lot of times when we have labels like high functioning, to us, that means, well, you're fine. You don't need any help. You're good to go. And that really takes away the services that they deserve. Okay, so why are these labels so misleading? One, they are ignoring the context. A person's abilities changes a lot depending on the environment that they're in, the sensory input that's around them, their stress level. I mean, think about if you're going to sit down and take the SATs. Okay, I know none of us want to do that again. Think about going and you had a good breakfast and you slept well and you've been studying and you go and it's comfortable and you have friends there. Like how great that would feel for you. Versus say you just stayed up for 2 nights in a row and you found out some really tragic news 2 hours before the test and you get into the room and it's 50 degrees in there and you don't have a sweater, right? It's like you just have to envision yourself in those situations where environment really affects our ability to, be at our best. So that's something that we need to consider as well. So another reason why they are misleading is they truly overlook the internal struggles that people will have. So many adults or, kids who are quote high functioning will experience significant burnout, sensory overload, and even communication difficulties that you just may not see at the surface level. These labels also really set unfair expectations. So because of a high functioning label, like I had mentioned, we often give this category of people fewer supports, even when they truly do need them, right? Whereas the kids who are considered low functioning, we might make these assumptions that, okay, well, I'm not going to give them opportunities that they deserve because they're never going to be able to be independent. We strip them of their autonomy just because we think, well, they don't understand what's going on and they don't have these skills. So we're just going to remove these opportunities from them altogether. And let me say for 1 second, like, we are well-intentioned people. You are here because you're trying to learn. Teachers are well-intentioned. Therapists are well-intentioned. We are good people. We are here trying to help kids. Okay. So this isn't to say if we have used these terms in the past, we're bad people. It's just that the autistic community is asking us to use other terms, and it's really up to them, the terms that we use to describe them. So we really want to think about how we can just shift away from our ways of the things that we've learned, and we've all done it, and I've done it too. I've been in this field for a while, and this is about how we can shift to what the community is asking of us. Okay. So some of the things that people may hear that are harmful, for example, a person who's considered high functioning might often hear, you seem fine. Why do you need accommodations? Or you can talk, so you probably don't struggle with communication, when that is not the truth for many autistic individuals. There are many places and times when communication can be a struggle. There are many times when they would benefit from accommodations. The other thing about these labels is that they ignore this natural fluctuation that all people have in their abilities, and specifically, of course, autistic people, because their abilities are going to change based on many factors. Okay. So we talked about how it could change based on the environment. Maybe they're in an environment that is really overwhelming versus an environment that's really supportive. And that could be, their physical environment. That could be the people around them are supportive versus overwhelming and demanding of them. It could change depending on their stress levels. If a person is in a meltdown mode or in burnout, of course, we're going to see changes in their abilities. And it could also change depending on sensory overload. We know that up to 95% of autistic people have sensory processing differences, and that changes how they are interacting and experiencing the world. And if they are in an environment where it is full of sensory input that is dysregulating to them, we're going to see a shift in their abilities versus if they're in an environment where they feel really comfortable. Okay, so now let's talk about a better thing to say instead of a child is high or low functioning. So what we can do instead is we can focus on support needs. Instead of saying this child is high functioning or low functioning, we want to talk about what type of support would benefit this person. And ultimately, this is going to give you so much more information about a child. It's going to give you so much more information about how you can support a child. So for example, if I'm a therapist and I am talking to a teacher and I have a kid I've been seeing since, maybe he was 2 and now he's starting preschool, and I'm meeting with the preschool teacher to tell her about this child, for me to just go to her and say, this child is low functioning, like that doesn't give her any useful information, right? All that does is have her create this picture in her head of what maybe she thinks this child looks like. Whereas instead, I can highlight the areas where they have strengths, highlight the areas where they need support. Okay. So a simple way would be to say, that this child has higher support needs. So if you have to talk about a child in one half of a sentence, you can say something like, this child has higher support needs, or this child has lower support needs. Okay. But in reality, we want to try to describe the child as best as possible. Okay. And one way we can do that is really consider the child's overall profile as a whole, because there are so many aspects of us, and there are things where we're going to be really strong in certain areas and things that are going to be hard for us. Okay. It's just like you and I might say I'm really great at writing and math isn't my strong suit. And when I sit down to do my first graders math, I get a little stressed out. Okay. They are teaching it differently these days, so give me some slack there. But it's true. And oftentimes in autistic individuals, they have what we call spiky profiles, meaning they have some really great, strong areas, and then they have areas where they need more support in. Okay. See how I did that? So what you can do. And if I were describing a child coming into the preschool who previously would have been described as low functioning, instead, I might say something like, this child has a lot of energy. He really benefits from movement breaks throughout the day. He has more needs when it comes to communication. So he uses an AAC device. He really benefits from, you modeling on the device. And in terms of, I don't know, I'm just making this up here. In terms of drawing, he's amazing with his visual skills, and he's really great with his fine motor skills. He doesn't really need a lot of support there. But when it comes to interacting, with friends, he could benefit from some support and help just finding the kids who he connects with. Okay, it doesn't have to be a paragraph, but if it can be, of course, that's going to give someone a lot more information. So you can start to think about the child in different areas. So you can think about how much support do they need with their sensory, with their emotions, with their social interaction, with their communication, with their, activities of daily living, feeding. It could be anything that's related to the, context of what you're trying to better support the child in. Okay, so you really want to think of, you've probably maybe have seen the graphic that autism isn't a straight line that goes from severe to mild, which are also terms we want to stay away from for all the reasons we previously mentioned here today. It's more like a pie chart where we have different slivers of the pie, like emotion, sensory, communication, social, and those are all different areas that we want to think about when we are supporting a child. And something else that's really cool about that is it gets us to sit down and really dive into what specific areas can I better support this child in? And instead of just looking at the child as one whole and not breaking that down, it allows you to sit down and think about, okay, well, let me really think about this child's emotional regulation. What's hard for them? What is causing them to struggle in the classroom versus, what are their areas of strength here? What are the things that they are great at and their really strong skills here? So it really helps you paint a more full picture of the child. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Today we went through why we are not using these functioning labels, that they actually oversimplify something that is super complex. They deny kids the support that they need. They often reinforce misunderstandings, give us misinformation, and they also limit the opportunities that we often are providing to our kids. Okay, so if you have ever used labeling labels in the past, like high and low functioning, don't feel bad. We have all done it. Let's just all move forward together. And if you want to learn so much more about this, if you're a therapist, make sure to check out our NeuroAffirm Therapy Academy. We have an awesome resource in there, which is helping a child to understand their support needs. And you can actually use this activity workbook with a child. You can use it with a teacher. You can use it with a parent. But it's just like I was describing, basically a pie chart of all of the different areas that we want to think about with a child. And then there's a self-assessment that you can use, or an assessment you can use with the teachers or the parents for every single piece of that pie. And that will help you to figure out, where does this child need more support and how can I provide them the support that they need. So we would love to see you in the NeuroAffirm Therapy Academy. I will post a link below. We have over 1,000 incredible professionals in that community. So we would love to have you be a part of it. All right, till next time. Bye.